Hello everyone, tonight we are standing in a cracked field where nothing has grown in decades except for silence. And beneath that silence, something tolls. You are here. You've followed the dirt path long enough that the town behind you has forgotten your name. The sky above is brittle-veined with heat lines, and the wheat, if you can call it that, is colorless as bone straw. Not even the wind whistles anymore. But there it is again. A low pulsing chime. It rolls across the dry earth like thunder smothered in wool. You shouldn't be able to hear it. There is no water here, no bell tower, no bell. But you hear it. Again. Always 3 beats. Like it's announcing someone's arrival, or warning of yours. You probably won't survive. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you really like what I do here. Let me know where you're listening from and what time it is there. Now, turn off the lights, maybe turn on the fan for some soothing noise, and let's get started tonight. They say this field used to be a river. Not just near a river, it was one. Wide and slow, shallow enough for children to chase eels, deep enough for funerals. Archaeologists unearthed braided nets knotted from reed grass and what might be a flute carved from the vertebra of something extinct. Near the center of the field lies the only thing that refuses to sink a round stone lip like a well, except the shaft ends after 2 meters in packed black clay, dry as ash, except when it isn't. The locals call it the Bellmouth. You visited it once, as a child, didn't you? Or maybe you only dreamed it. In either case, the memory is vivid. A dry hole that smells like iron and whispering milk. You dropped a pebble in and never heard it land. Someone laughed behind you, but when you turned around, everyone else was frozen, even the sparrows. Now, years later, you're back carrying a leather journal and your grandmother's map, the one she wouldn't let anyone touch after sundown. You follow the charcoal markings and find the field again. No one comes here anymore, not since the last drought. They say the bell tolls every time the river dies. Which is funny because there's no bell, right? According to one 12th century source, there used to be a shrine in the center of the riverbed. Pilgrims from dry villages would bring offerings, cracked teeth, smooth river stones, and stringed bone chimes to teach the bell to mourn again. The shrine was said to contain the drowned bell of Thalys, a bronze casting so perfectly tuned it could only ring underwater. Scholars still debate if Thalys was a priest, a place, or just a mistranslated word for drowning. Of course, the original shrine vanished centuries ago. Or maybe it never existed. Some researchers argue whether the bell was a metaphor for the sound of frogs, or thunder, or hunger, or guilt. But it doesn't feel metaphorical now. It feels close. You camp beneath the dead fig tree just before twilight, pretending not to watch the well. But it watches you. That's the game. You set out your grandmother's journal beside your bedroll where her script bends into pictograms. A square with 3 black arcs beside it. A warning or instructions. You smile at your own nervousness, then wonder if the smile was yours. Around midnight, it tolls again. The sound doesn't echo, it folds. 3 chimes. Then nothing. You note the time. You pretend you didn't flinch. You definitely don't cry. The second joke of the night. You packed earplugs. They don't help. In the early hours while the sky is still grieving for stars, something shifts in the field. A wind that doesn't touch your skin. You sit up very slowly and you see them. Figures, kneeling in a circle around the bell mouth. They look like wax statues pressed flat by drought faces, unreadable shoulders slumped as if listening to something far below. None of them move. Except their hands. Their hands are weaving something from the dry grass and your string. You didn't bring string. The third joke, you brought snacks. And one of the figures, without looking, reaches into your pack and takes one. Then sets it on the rim of the bell mouth. Like an offering. Then it tolls again. You don't scream, you just stand. Step forward. 1 foot, then another. The air is dry, but your eyes are not. Closer. Nah. Now you see the figures are wrapped in something older than cloth. Algae river root, and beneath their masks, yes, they are wearing masks. You see the faint, gentle curve of a smile that doesn't end. A voice hums from the well, not from the figures. You don't speak the language, but your breath does. You feel it answering. And suddenly, you're back in your childhood again, looking down into the bellmouth pebble in hand. The sound of laughter again behind you. But you're alone, and the pebble is in your mouth. You wake up with dirt in your throat and bell echo in your bones. The figures are gone, but something new has been tied to the tree. A stringed net of dry grass shaped like an ear. It tolls once more, just once, like it's listening. You wake to footprints. They aren't yours, not quite. They look like your boots, yes, same tread, same size, but they walk in the wrong direction. Away from your camp toward the horizon where the river used to sleep. They vanish halfway across the field. No turning back, just vanishing. There's no dew, no morning mist. The ground hasn't held water in your lifetime, but where the footprints vanish, the dust is darker, damp. And the air smells faintly like lichen, like the inside of a stone bowl that's held water too long. You kneel. Press your palm into the sunken earth. It's warm. It pulses. You take your hand back. The bellmouth tolls once. You don't remember walking there, but suddenly you're standing at its edge again. The rim is cracked now, one chip missing like a tooth. You feel it. Before you see it, something beneath the clay has shifted. You could leave. You won't. There's a faint memory nagging at the edge of your thoughts. Your grandmother once told you a story about a bell that never wanted to be heard. That the people who rang it vanished not all at once, but backwards. Their names forgot them. Their reflections apologized. Their shadows pointed the wrong way. She said it like a bedtime story. You don't think she meant it that way? You open her journal again. There's a new page. You're sure it wasn't there last night. At the top, if the bell answers 3 times, ask no more. You've heard it 4. Some researchers insist that Thalas's bell couldn't physically exist. Bronze loses resonance under sediment. A bell underwater would warp with time and temperature. Others believe it was less of an artifact and more of an event, a seismic memory encoded in sediment. A resonance fossil, some strange harmony in the strata. Or in less poetic terms, an accidental echo chamber caused by collapsing aquifers. Imagine ruining a haunting with the word aquifers. Still, no one can explain the humming. You felt it now in your spine, in the ground, in the deep ache behind your teeth. A sound you remember in the back of your skull, like the lullabies played by wind between ribs. You take the net from the tree. The grass has changed color. Not bleached anymore, but faintly green, almost luminous. It's shaped like an ear, yes, but it's also a trap. Not for animals, for echoes. You carry it with you without thinking. The path beyond the field slopes downward, though the maps say flatland. And the soil darkens with every step. Not wet, not quite, more like bruised. You find the old riverbed by accident. You step into it without noticing, and suddenly you're lower than the sky. The bones begin here. At first, it's just a femur, something big, maybe bison. You tell yourself it's bison, then a jaw, wide, crescent-shaped, with holes that look like piercings. You count 6, 1 for each of the kneeling figures. You do not laugh this time. That's joke number 1. You were supposed to record all this. You check your camera. Dead. Brand new batteries. Not even warm. You don't remember turning it off. The bell tolls again, not from behind. Ahead. But it doesn't come from the air this time. It comes from your chest, from inside your ribs. You stop breathing and the toll stops too. Then starts again. You breathe shallowly like someone practicing the flute through a mask. The landscape is wrong. The trees are brittle. Their shadows flicker differently than their bodies. There's a sense of being watched not by eyes but by time. Time is watching you, and it's patient. You remember now in ancient Mesopotamia, bells were sometimes buried with the dead, not to wake them but to weigh them down. A final sound, not a warning but a request. Stay quiet, stay still. Maybe this bell is doing the opposite. You find another structure, half-sunken stone circular, like the bell mouth, but this one's collapsed. The clay has eaten half of it. Around the rim you see handprints, not carved. Real ones, pressed into wet clay and left to dry. One of them matches your hand. You try not to test that theory. You fail. It fits. The second joke, you never told anyone you were coming here. And yet someone left a note tucked into the clay beneath the print. It's in your handwriting. You don't read it. Not yet. There's a humming again, low and warm, like your grandmother's voice in the next room when she thought you were asleep. You follow it, of course you do. Eventually you reach what must have been the heart of the old river. There's a depression here, not quite a crater, but something dragged. Something large, circular, and heavy once rested here, and moved, or was pulled. In the center of the depression, under a pile of flat river stones, lies a wooden shape. You brush it clean. A crossbeam, no four. Joined in the center, a support frame for a bell, and beneath it, cracked bronze. So it was real. You don't touch it. You want to, but you don't. You sit, you listen. The net in your hand trembles, and the bell does not toll. It inhales, and that's worse. That's joke number 3. It hasn't been ringing at you. It's been answering, and now it's waiting. You wait too. Hours pass, or maybe minutes. There's no way to tell. Your watch ticks steadily, but the shadows on the cracked earth twitch in directions they shouldn't. The sun seems reluctant to move, like a guest overstaying in a silent house. You sit cross-legged near the bronze ruin. The string net balanced in your lap, still shaped like an ear. It's grown heavier somehow. The knots look tighter, more intentional. You could swear they weren't this symmetrical yesterday. Or this listening. The air around the bell is warm, then cold, then hollow. You hear nothing, and in that nothing you hear everything. A child coughing, a fish jumping, a whisper in a language no one speaks, and then a dry rasp as if a voice is trying to form inside your own breath. Don't toll it. Your head snaps up. There's no one. Just the bell split open like a seed pod. Just your own breath looping back inside you. The scholars who dismiss the bell often cite its impossible placement. No river in that region ran deep enough to support the resonance needed for a submerged structure. But others point out something stranger: there were no records of floods either. Just disappearances. Whole villages unmarked. Not erased, just removed. As if they had been unspoken. One theory, fringe but detailed, suggests the bell never drowned in water but in time. They called it a resonance sink. A place where memory curls backward. Where history folds and forgets to reopen. Where a bell could toll and be heard before it ever existed. It's probably nonsense. But then so is your reflection. You check your water bottle. You see yourself at the curved steel cap. The mouth moves a second too late. You decide not to drink. Instead, you reach into your bag. The journal is gone. No, it's not. It's simply rearranged. The pages are out of order, folded like wings. Page 12 comes after page 2, and page 7 is now blank but wet. You flip through anyway until a diagram catches your eye. A field, a bell, a series of footsteps, your boot print again surrounding a symbol you've seen once before. A spiral of 3 arcs, the same pattern etched onto the stones you slept near. The same pattern you traced with your finger as a child, not realizing it meant something. A water sigil, or a silencing spell, or a trap. You smile. That's the first joke of the night. You always wanted to uncover a mystery. You didn't expect it to be yourself. The wind returns around dusk. It doesn't move grass. It doesn't even stir dust, but it changes the temperature. Like opening a door to an ancient room. The kind where candles burn down into teeth. You don't feel watched anymore. You feel waited for. That's worse. You light a small fire. Not for warmth, but for outline. Something about the light feels honest. Even if the shadows it casts don't follow your movements. Across the fire you see them again. The kneeling figures. Backlit, masked, silent. There are more of them this time. 13, maybe 14. All facing you. All listening. They make no sound. But the bell inside you rings just once and your thoughts flutter like birds trapped in a cave. You try to speak and instead you exhale words you've never learned. The string net in your lap tenses. It hums. So do you. And then the figures begin to rise. One by one, impossibly slow like they're underwater. Their masks glint in the firelight. They take a single step toward you. Stop! And kneel again. Only one figure remains standing. It raises a hand. Points to the journal. You hesitate. Another hand gesture, not aggressive, almost polite. An invitation. You pick up the journal. Open to the blank page. It is no longer blank. The ink is fresh and the words are written in your hand. The bell is not a warning. It's a request. It tolls not because something is coming, but because something has been waiting. Waiting for someone to listen. The standing figure steps forward, slowly, carefully. It reaches for the net, and you, after a moment's hesitation, offer it. Its fingers brush yours, cool, dry, familiar. The net hums again, and then, without a sound, the figure lifts its mask. You recognize the face. Of course you do. It's yours, or nearly. Different age, different scar, but unmistakably you. That's the second joke. You've always been coming here, just not always from the same direction. The masked you smiles, softer than expected, places the net gently on the broken bronze, and the bell inhales again, this time deeper. So deep the stars flicker, so deep the fire dims, so deep that even your thoughts forget what they were doing. The net tightens, writhes once, and then relaxes. You look around. The figures are gone. So is the standing one. You're alone again, except for the bell and the journal. You pick it up. A new line has been written. Now it's your turn. The wind doesn't return. The silence thickens. The final joke. You don't remember what you came to find, but you know what found you. At dawn, the bell exhales. It is not a sound. It is a gesture, a low tremor in the soles of your feet, a pressure in your chest like forgotten grief, a kind of apology that arrives long after the harm is done. It doesn't wake you. You're already awake. You've been sitting there for hours still, as stone watching the embers of the fire smolder into ash. You haven't blinked in too long. The field is dry again. The kneeling figures are gone. But something of them remains a scent, maybe like river moss or old books, and a feeling of having just missed someone you never met. The bell is whole again. It shouldn't be. You remember it cracked, bent, half swallowed by the clay. But now it stands upright on its frame, unblemished, quietly watching you. You are afraid to move. But you do. You always do. You step closer and it doesn't toll. It shifts ever so slightly, like it's adjusting to your weight in the world. Like a boat accepting a passenger. You reach out your hand not to touch it, just to measure the space. But your fingers tingle, like your bones remember something your skin hasn't learned yet. The journal lies open behind you. Another page has written itself. Do not ring the bell. It is already ringing. You close the book, gently. Then you laugh. That's the first joke. You've become exactly the kind of person your younger self would have avoided at parties. Out here in a dead field, speaking to a silent bell like it owes you something. Like it can explain the feeling that everything familiar has been turned 1 inch to the left. You start to walk again, not away from the bell, but in a wide arc around it. The same path the figures took. You trace their steps, though you're no longer sure whether you're reenacting something ancient or causing it. The ground feels softer underfoot, though the dust still clings to your heels. After a while, you find them. The masks. All 13, hung from a low-hanging branch of the dead fig tree. They turn ever so slightly in the morning breeze, though the air is still. You approach carefully. Each mask is carved from a different material: bone, driftwood, clay, bronze, something like horn. None of them match exactly. Some look serene. Some are clearly screaming. Some are blank entirely. One is a perfect mold of your face. The eyes are hollow. Inside that hollow, something glitters. You reach in and pull out a river stone. Polished smooth. Warm. You've seen it before. In your grandmother's house on the shelf she never dusted. The one beside the photograph of her sister. The sister no one ever spoke of. The one who, according to family rumor, left for the dry country and never came back. You hold the stone tightly. Behind you, the bell tolls again. But this time, it doesn't sound alone. There's a response, a second toll farther away, fainter, like another bell answering across time. Then a third, closer, and a fourth, inside you. Your breath catches. You remember something from the journal? A phrase buried in the margin of a half-erased page? The dry country rings in chords. One voice is only half a warning. The masks begin to turn faster now. Not from wind, from rhythm, from memory. Your body sways in time with them. Your heartbeat slows to match. You think you hear words inside the tolls, but they're not human. Or maybe they're older than language, like the moan of ice cracking beneath a glacier. Like a name spoken by land. Second joke of the day. You forgot to bring earplugs this time. You return to the bell. It waits. It has always waited. You kneel beside it, placing the river stone gently at its base. The ground drinks in the shape. There's another pulse and your hand reflexively opens the journal. The ink writes. You're not here to ring it. You're here to remember who did. You blink, and suddenly you are elsewhere. You stand beside the same bell, but the field is flooded shallow water rippling with fish and reeds and warmth. Children laugh in the distance. A figure walks toward the bell carrying a mask shaped like your face but younger. She speaks, but the words don't reach you. She kneels. She places the mask down beside the bell. You are watching your grandmother, or maybe you are her. It's unclear. The mask turns to you, so does the bell, and tolls. Again, 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 until the ripples collapse back into dust and you wake up with your hand on the journal and your face wet. It hasn't rained. You haven't cried. But the ground remembers water now. And the bell is humming. You realize this is not a haunting. This is a summoning, not of ghosts, of memory. And memory always tolls backward. The final joke. You haven't left the field. Not once. Every step you've taken has just folded the path tighter around the bell. Like a spiral. Like an ear. Like home. You don't walk to the center of the spiral. You are already there. You realize this slowly as the dust settles into silence around you, as the dry wind fades to something deeper, something still. The bell doesn't toll again. It breathes. The grass doesn't sway. It waits. Even your shadow is quiet now, curled neatly at your feet like an obedient dog. You sit. The string net is gone. Or rather, it's unraveled, scattered across the cracked soil in symbols you can almost read. They look like words, then like footprints, then like nothing at all. You try to follow them with your eyes, but they lead back to the bell. Always back to the bell. The journal opens itself now. A final page. Handwriting you don't recognize but feel you should. It doesn't remember who made it. Only who listened. You can leave, but only if you bring someone else to hear it. The echo of a choice. You laugh. That's the first joke. No one you know would believe any of this even if you drew them a map. Especially if you drew them a map. But the idea sits in you. A burden or a responsibility, or both. You look down at your palms. They're lined with dust, with memory, with script, and on your left wrist a mark. Not a scar, not quite. A faint impression like the edge of a mask once worn too long. You don't remember putting it on. You don't remember taking it off. You look around. The field is familiar now. Not comforting but known. The tree, the slope, the pattern of stones, the way the horizon never quite stays still. You can trace the spiral backwards, but the center won't change. The bell is not an object, it's a pattern, a resonance held together by need. You try to stand, but your legs hum with the toll. So you kneel instead. Again. Not in submission. In remembrance. That's what the bell requires. You touch the ground and feel the memory beneath it. Water once flowed here slow and wide. Frogs called. Children sang. People carved masks to echo the river's voice. They didn't bury the bell to silence it. They buried it so it wouldn't be alone. Then the drought came. The river died. And the bell rang. Once, twice, again, until the only one left to hear it was you, or someone like you, or someone who became you. A memory dressed in skin and hesitation. You pick up the journal, now blank again. It's lighter and warmer, the last weight leaving it. The second joke, you never needed to write in it. You were the writing. And the story isn't ending. It's waiting for the next person to turn the page. You hear footsteps behind you, soft, familiar. You do not turn around. You say nothing, but you nod. The bell exhales one last time, and you begin to forget gently the way the river used to taste, the way your name used to feel, the way silence can sound like music when you hold your breath just long enough. You set the journal down. You rise, and you walk away from the bell, but never far. You're part of the spiral now, not a ghost, a memory in waiting. The final joke. You really were the first person to listen, but not the last. And somewhere far away in another dry field, a child bends to pick up a stone they think is just a stone. And the bell begins again. They say, sound can travel farther through water than air, farther through silence than through noise. But memory drifts deeper still. It moves like light through silt, like names carved into riverbeds long since dried. You are not gone. You are held. Somewhere the field still curls like an ear toward a sound that has not yet happened. Somewhere the masks wait on trees that have never grown leaves. Somewhere a journal with no pages keeps opening to the middle. And somewhere, always, the bell listens. Not to toll, not to summon, just to echo. The bell does not remember its maker, but it remembers the first listener and every listener since. You feel them now behind your eyes. The kneeling shapes, the gentle hum, the promise that even when no one remembers the river will remember you. And one day when another arrives, they will hear you listening back.